does this time of year mean to you? That was referring to more towards the beginning of the year, and that was Imbolc. And of course I talked about it a little bit in the last week of talking about the Wheel of the Year. So what does Imbolc mean to me is, well, it's very special to me because it's when I did my self-dedication. Spark is something new. As the essence of spring kind of showing through. Week 6, asking what my cultural influences are. Now, this is an interesting topic. I actually don't have any specific cultural influences. I know that some Wiccans do have like a matron and patron, and that might influence their practice a little bit based off of what culture they're from or what pantheon they're from. Other cultures are very interesting, but I don't identify with them. I mean, there's something separate. There's something I've never experienced before, and while I might be interested in them, it's really not enough to kind of assume some kind of identity with them. I'm from the United States, and I'm actually kind of a hodgepodge of different cultures in the United States. Which ones vary. I'm a military brat, so I've been to a lot of places, and the only other really different culture that I've experienced was in Puerto Rico. So I guess really the only thing you could say of what cultures influenced me is basically what cultures influenced the construction of Wicca. Most of it's Celtic mythology and Anglo-Saxon and, you know, that kind of area. I think Gerald Gardner pulled from some Eastern religions, but most of it seems to be centralized in Western Europe because was where the witch cult was supposed to be originated from. That was its location. So Western Europe, I guess. Week 7, how do you view sacred texts? If that's like a general question, I mean, sacred texts can be very important to people in certain religions, and you know, you have, of course, Christians see the Bible as like a talisman in and of itself that has power just in its physical presence, not just the content within. And there's a lot of other cultures that have specific sacred texts. It seems like texts become more sacred the older they get. And I guess it's because the more further back in history something is, the more muddy its origins are, which make it more mysterious, and mysterious becomes a little more special, I guess. So there's really no sacred texts within Wicca, and the closest you can really get is the text that influenced Wicca. Charles Leland's Eradia, Gospel of the Witches, Margaret Murray's work, Golden Bough by James Fraser, White Goddess. Those aren't considered sacred, but I guess I would kind of consider them like a little bit sacred, a little bit important. I've been starting to try and collect some of those texts just to have them. That to have them is special. Of course I read them, but special to me in the sense that they really inspired Wicca into becoming what it is. Week 8, matron and patron deity. This is kind of a confusing concept for me. When I was first starting out and I was checking out other Wiccans, people were talking about their matron and patrons. That I learned from that, like in Scott Cunningham's book, he talked about the goddess and the god, the horned god and the moon goddess, and just their general attributes. But all these Wiccans were saying, you know, they have a matron or patron, and there were videos about like how to find your matron and patron. A lot of them were saying, you know, just wait and they'll come to you or something like that, and I got confused. I was like, so is the god and the goddess like a blank slate to put an ancient pagan deity into? I got confused about that. I'm still confused about that, to be perfectly honest. I just started reading Witchcraft for Tomorrow by Doreen Valiente, and the concept that she was talking about was the horned god in the moon, or mother goddess, is actually kind of like the most prehistoric conceptions of deity. She calls it like primordial deity, and all the ancient pagan gods and goddesses come from those two deities. So I guess that's where the concept comes from. So I'm really confused about that. I worship the horned god, also in conjunction with being, you know, part of the solar cycle. And then I worship the mother goddess in conjunction with the lunar cycle. Week 9, do you keep a journal? I know that a lot of people have said that in their Book of Shadows they keep a journal and they talk about their spells and, you know, their conceptions and all that kind of stuff. I don't use my Book of Shadows as any kind of journal. I don't write personal thoughts or feelings or anything like that. It's just, I guess, what you would call a grimoire or a reference book to do ritual spells, things like that. But it also has like basic descriptions of concepts. It's got prayers in it, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just reference. I do keep an online journal where I talk about my journey through Wicca. I do also consider my YouTube channel as kind of a journal. Week 10, what do the moon phases mean to you? Pretty much the whole idea of the triple goddess, waxing moon being the maiden, full moon being the mother, and waning moon being the crone. That's how I see the moon phases. That's how I connect with the goddess, with that concept. I don't have a strong connection with the moon, to be quite honest. I never really have. Look up in the moon and be like, oh gosh, it's so beautiful tonight, do you mind? But never felt like enthralled and enchanted by it. And I'm actually trying to change that by doing my full moon spots, and it is really changing. Wow. And this can segue into week 11, talking about the sun. I feel very different about the sun, and I have since about the age of 16 or so. I actually started kind of a sun worship type feeling, I guess. I was Catholic, but I looked at the sun as being a god, and sometimes I would represent God as being like Ra, the Egyptian sun god. But I have since then felt a spiritual connection with the sun, even as an atheist. Like, it would enthrall me, just basking in its warmth and its glow. It would just be a very intense feeling. Not even thinking about what it was. I mean, stars are just incredible to witness. And when they're that close, wow. The sun is just like the powerhouse of our entire system, of course. Week 12, what does this time of year mean to you? That was in reference to Beltane. Just talking about it before in the Wheel of the Year. To me, it was romantic unions and marriage and conception. Just kind of the start of the progression towards the harvest, I guess. Week 13, do you use divination? I work with tarot cards, but I'm still very new to them. I've been very slow in working with them. I use them really every so often. You know, I have a view of tarot cards that even if they have absolutely no divine powers at all, if they really don't have the capacity to help you, I think it's supposed to like get into your psychic mind or something to see what, you know, you are not privy to and see the future and all that kind of stuff. It's actually kind of helpful because when you get a card in a specific spot, it makes you think about a situation differently. So, you know, you have a card in a specific spot and you read what that card means, and then you think of that specific situation and you kind of consider it. It's not the fact that it's absolute truth or anything like that. It just makes you look at things in a different way. It's almost like therapy. I don't think it's ever a waste of time. Even if there is no power to it whatsoever, it's still an interesting way to kind of look at your problems into a new perspective. Other forms of divination I don't use. I haven't really been interested in it. Tarot cards I do really enjoy, and I'm still in the process of learning them. I still use a lot of references when I'm doing my spreads and everything. Look up different spreads. I have to look up the meanings of the cards, whether they're upright, reversed, all that kind of stuff, and it's a work in progress technically. Alright, so I'm catching up in my weeks. This was week 5 through 13. Yeah, I'm on a roll. Thanks for watching, everyone, and blessed be.